The first few times I got this question, I was shocked. Oh my gosh, you're like asking me about my private, intimate life. But as time went on, I was asked that question more and more and more, and I realized, holy cow, this is actually a really big deal. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about something that I actually feel really passionate about. Now, I have spoken so many times all around the country, and a lot of times there'll be a Q&A after my speech. And the first few times I got this question, I was shocked. I was like surprised that people were interested in that. But basically the question is how am I married? How am I intimate with my husband after being kidnapped and violated so many times for so long? How can I function? People are really interested in this topic. And there's a few things that I want to talk about. My case, I was kidnapped. My life turned from day to night, like instantly. It wasn't gradual, it was instantaneous. This man who kidnapped me, he was older than my dad. He was an old man. It was violent. I had no choice in anything. It was forced upon me. I was threatened. So all of these things, all of these factors came into play. And I just want to say, I am a firm believer that there's a very big difference between what true intimacy is, like loving, consensual, healthy intimacy, versus violence, versus abuse, versus being sexually violated. They're not the same thing. And unfortunately, when it comes to abuse, a lot of things that happen during abuse are about power and control. And power and control take all choice. They take everything away from victims, from survivors. It takes all choice. And I think for me, that's the biggest factor, is choice. So now, I'm married, I have 3 kids, I have a wonderful husband, but it was all my choice. I chose to get married. I chose to engage in intimate relations with my husband. Those are my choice. And if I ever said stop, he would stop. For me, intimacy means something. Intimacy is special. It's not just something I'm willing to share with everyone. I choose to share it only with my husband, and I have such a deep trust with him, and I can be fully vulnerable with him. We have a lot of communication. So I think that is something that I would like everyone to know, is that you can absolutely be intimate after you've experienced violent trauma, after you've experienced some kind of sexual violence. You absolutely can be intimate again, but I think it comes down to choice. You're the one setting the boundaries. Respect, knowing that your partner respects you, that your partner would never hurt you, that you can trust them. Well, and that's the third one, is trust. That if you said no at any point, that your partner would say okay and not hold it against you. Because I get we can all get in the moment and be a bit hot and heavy, and if you say I don't like that, it can be a little bit off-putting and be like, what did I do wrong? But as long as you have that communication there, and you can be open with them and you can be honest with them, you can totally have intimacy back in your life. And it is not the same thing as sexual violence. So if you're still here, make sure you like and subscribe to this video, because this is such a common question. This is such a common, concern. I think a lot of people struggle with it. So be sure to like and subscribe so that we can reach more people, especially pertaining to this topic.
Sex is very mental, right? What would you recommend for women who mentally can't get there because all they do is think of what happened to them?
To the women who, when they start engaging in intimacy, well, they say your brain is your biggest sex organ. And so, if your brain's immediately cutting in and being like, oh, this is like your trauma, this is the same route as your trauma, then of course it's going to be impossible to follow through. But I think that's almost the point when if you can, because I realize saying and doing are 2 different things, but I think it's almost at that point that you need to separate your brain from the experience and instead focus on your other senses. How does my partner's face feel? How does their stubble, how does that friction feel against my hand? Or what does his mouth taste like? Really try to hone in on your other senses. Try to disconnect your brain. It's okay to not have it work out perfectly every time. I mean, that's totally normal. You know, it's a work in progress, right? Like, who has the world's best sex the first time they ever have sex? You know, you practice it, you learn, you figure out what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work, and you go from there. You know, for me, I think intimacy is about anticipation. So throughout the day, I want to do things that make me feel good. So a lot of times it'll be working out, it might be putting on makeup so I feel pretty. Maybe it's, you know, shaving my legs. Maybe it's going the extra step and exfoliating my legs first and then shaving them so they're silky smooth. But you know, sometimes like reading a good book that has a little bit of tension in it, that doesn't hurt either. I think finding the resources that help kind of ignite your imagination and help build anticipation, I think those are worthy tools.
Even in your book, you were like, I felt like a used piece of gum. There's some women who might, after what happened, might feel that way and they just can't get out of that mentally. Do you have anything to say to that?
To anyone that's been exploited, who's been hurt, who's been victimized, and then they feel damaged, if this is like something that you've struggled with for like a very long time and it's something that eats away at you, I would definitely recommend finding a professional, because I can sit here and say all day long, it doesn't matter what someone does to you, nobody else can take away your value. And I can say that, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna believe it. So I would definitely say if this is something that you really struggled with, there is no shame in asking for help. There's nothing wrong with going to a therapist and saying you need help with therapists. There's nothing wrong with going to a sex therapist, a sex coach, to help you work through these problems so you can have intimacy in your life. Because however the world views it, whatever walk of life you're from or religion you're from, intimacy is an important part of life. And you know, everyone should be able to enjoy it. You know, I've also met people who look at other women and they're like, oh, they seem to just really enjoy being intimate with their partners, and I don't have anything there. Like, sure, I would like to, but that desire just never enters into my life. You know what? Sometimes, and again, I'm not a professional, but sometimes there is a medical reason why that's not happening. I mean, I'd say, you know, go talk to your doctor, go check your hormones out. Also, what kind of lifestyle are you living? Like, are you taking care of your body? Are you being healthy? Are you moving it? Are you getting enough sleep? Like, are you like checking all the normal boxes that probably everyone is sick of listening to? But those all do. Lifestyle does play into everything. It affects everything. So I think it would probably be wrong of me to not mention that. And again, I'm not an expert, so go see an expert. If you like this video, if you have questions, because this again is a topic that I feel like is really, really important, and it's a conversation I'd like to return to. So if you have more questions that I didn't cover or you need more clarity, please write them below. Subscribe to this so you know the next time I do another video on this topic. Hopefully this video helps you realize, learn that no matter what happens, you can still have a beautiful life. We all have trauma. We all have a story. You can still have a beautiful, fulfilling life moving forward. Thank you for watching. See you next time.